Welcome to the Voice of Aging. I'm your host, Bryn Malone, the founder and owner of Aging Solutions here in the Pacific Northwest and coast to coast. So, welcome to this edition of the Voice of Aging. Like every podcast, we want to really bring information to you that is beneficial when you're dealing with an aging parent, or if you yourself are aging and you want to have the most up-to-date and latest information about services and resources in the community. That's why we do this. So we try to keep it fun and interesting and light. And today I'm just really happy to introduce Kathleen Gianetti. She works in the hospice industry, and that word can be intimidating and a bit frightening for people when they hear the term hospice. What does that mean? So hopefully what you take away from this um, interview and podcast with Kathleen is that it's really not that scary. It's actually a beautiful journey. And so this conversation will hopefully frame it in a different light than what you may have heard from friends and neighbors who are well meaning. But before we get going, can I just review a little bit about the history of
Please.
hospice?
Yes,
I'm going
please.
to steal your thunder here a little bit because
Hey, I'll
I like
let
to
you.
do research. I was a history major in college, so I like to do research. So just correct me if I get something wrong, will you?
I will.
Okay. So modern day hospice was started by Dame Cicely Saunders. She founded St. Christopher's Hospice in London in 1967. That's not that long ago.
It's really not.
It's not. I was born before then, not to give it away. Um, and she did this to emphasize total pain management
Mhm.
in the dying and death process. Also, it was to treat not only the pain, but the physical, spiritual, and emotional well-being of people.
Yes.
Okay,
A
so I think
holistic approach.
holistic approach, and I
Mhm.
think that's phenomenal. But I was surprised to find that hospice was actually a medieval invention,
Mm.
typically by religious orders,
Mhm.
and they had established hospices for travelers or pilgrims who would be going on pilgrimages. I can't say that word right now,
Mhm.
but they would go on pilgrimage. See, I still can't say that word, but everyone knows a journey. Um, and they would just give respite to weary travelers. And if people were ill, they treated the ill. And so it was a place to go where people maybe couldn't stay at home then, and they just had a general place where religious people could take care
Mhm.
of them. And then I looked up, well, how long has hospice been a part of the United States healthcare system? And how long do you think it's been?
In
Or
the 80s, I know, but not very long.
yeah, it's actually just 1974. The
Okay.
first hospice was in Connecticut,
Oh,
was founded
wow.
in Connecticut, and then kind of is now national in the United States. So
Learn something new every day.
learn something new every day. I thought it was fascinating. It was medieval origins, and
Mhm.
then Dame Cicely Saunders
Mhm.
made it popular, and then it took till 1974. I thought it had been around forever.
Mm.
But anyway, so Kathleen, thanks for being here.
You're
It's
welcome.
great
Thanks
to
for
have
having
you
me.
bet.
Thank you.
Tell us what you do with hospice.
So I like to say to families that we are going to bake a cake. I
Okay.
want to be able to, at the end of that appointment with them,
Hmm.
for them to completely understand the entire recipe of what I'm there for.
Okay.
And their loved one is the sweet part. It's the last piece, it's the frosting.
I love that.
So I like to insert myself in any way that I can to help families understand what hospice is, but most importantly, what hospice is not.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not our grandma's hospice anymore, where we take the people home and give them morphine and then they have days or minutes to live.
Uh-huh.
Some of our families experience hospice for 18 months, 2 years, sometimes longer. And really and honestly, it's the most difficult thing I think is that there's such underutilization in hospice. And what I mean by that, Bryn, is that the families that don't understand that it is a benefit through Medicare,
Hmm.
and if they don't use that benefit, all that money goes back to the government when that person passes away in the hospital or at home without hospice services.
Okay. I think you brought up some good points. So let's just kind of peel those layers back a little bit. Um, you're a liaison for a hospice company, which
Correct.
means you're the first contact a family's going to have, right? So you're the bright smiling face that's going to come in a very difficult situation.
Very.
Usually someone's very ill. Do you have personal experience with hospice?
I
I mean, why are
do.
you in this business,
Uh,
right?
it's a God-given ability that the Lord has given me.
Okay.
About 20 years ago, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer, and
Uh-huh.
she did pretty good for the first 8 or 10 months, did the chemo, did the radiation. Then the cancer metastasized or moved to her bones and then went to her brain.
Okay.
I was in orthopedics at the time, had been for 15 years before that. So, you don't talk about hospice when you're talking about a hip fracture or knee surgery.
Right.
So when her oncologist said, Kathleen, I think it's time for you guys to look at comfort measures through hospice, I was like, where do I find this hospice thing? Do I buy it at Walmart? Do you order on the online? Well, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I want to take that experience and pretend that every person I meet has a limited amount of experience that I did at the time.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's
we
a true statement. Yeah.
it's so true. We had a beautiful experience. My mom lived with hospice for about 7 weeks.
Okay.
Our daughter got to experience the death of her grandma in a very beautiful way, all because the hospice folks got to know our story.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that personal story with
You're
us.
welcome.
I think people fear death, right?
Some do,
It's been
yeah.
my experience. A lot of people just really resist it and fear death. Um, Not that life's always great for everybody, but death seems to just really bring a lot of anxiety to it. And then you have family members and can be at a loss. So when this hospice liaison or this doctor came to your family, um, what was that like for you? What kind of emotions did you come? How did your mom handle that?
Mom handled it better than I thought she was going to.
Uh-huh.
She fought really hard, but then at that point, she was just really tired.
Yeah.
And she knew that I was weary too. I was her primary caregiver. I had, two teenage kids at the time, husband, a business. I was doing all the things, but trying to help her too.
Okay.
And so hospice to me was like a lifeline. I just grabbed onto those people and I knew that whatever questions I had that they'd be able to answer, that they would be able to step in and help us out.
Okay. What kind of questions would you typically have if you're a family member?
So a lot of family members ask me, well, does this mean that dad has to stop taking all of his medications or that he can never get antibiotics if he has a bronchitis? And my answer is always absolutely not. We do not take away medications. No hospice agency should, but
Yeah.
the nurse will talk to the family, look over the medications, and let's just say that dad's 90 years old and he's got Alzheimer's. He's having trouble swallowing. We don't want to load him up with a bunch of pills. So
Right.
the nurse might say, okay, do you really think that he needs to continue with, the vitamin D and the fish oil and the Flomax, things like that?
Yeah.
We definitely want to keep him on any medication for his heart, for his kidneys, for diabetes.
Diabetes.
But we're more focusing on, instead of trying to keep somebody from getting more ill, we want to focus on comfort measures only.
So what's a comfort measure? What does that mean?
A comfort measure is anything from shortness of breath, agitation, anxiety, pain is a big one. So we want to make sure that we can provide whatever is needed for those different symptoms. And our nurses manage those symptoms because they have, we call it the BAT line. We have each hospice agency in the United States will have a medical director whose specialty is hospice, like a cardiologist specializes in heart.
Cardiology, yeah.
Our medical directors are specialized in hospice. So anytime that a patient starts to exhibit any sort of those symptoms, including like any sort of GI upset or anything like that, their nurse can call on the BAT line and get the doctor's approval to order a medication, and it is delivered same day.
Okay, what about it's the middle of the night?
They call us.
They call
We
you.
call hospice. Don't call 911. Don't call 911. And the reason why not to call 911 is hospice is there to help. We can make the visit. But also, when Medicare sees that Mr. Smith is now choosing the hospice benefit and he goes to the hospital, then the hospital doesn't get paid
Yeah.
because Medicare is paying hospice.
Yeah.
So if you call 911 and you get to the hospital, let your agency know. That way they can, what we call, discharge you from services. You can have the service that you need at the hospital, go back home, and then be readmitted onto hospice.
So what services would they need at the hospital? I mean, I know people, so people go on hospice, been my experience, people go on hospice and then for example, they might fall and have a fracture
Mhm.
and they want to go to the hospital and want to get that fixed.
Sure.
But when you're on hospice and you're kind of near the end of life,
Mhm.
does that make a lot of sense? I mean, I just want to be real with people
Sure.
because emotionally, that person may want to keep fighting like your
Mhm.
mom did.
Mhm.
Um, but I've had to just talk with people like this surgery may end your life really because
Absolutely.
anesthesia is very
Mhm.
difficult. Um, so why would people want to be transferred to the hospital?
So sometimes families get scared.
Okay,
They don't know how to manage, and they've been so used to calling 911 for grandpa that it's
it's
automatic.
automatic.
But when we begin to see them in their home and we remind them, don't call or don't call 911
Yeah,
first, call us.
yeah,
Now, I like to tell families if he falls out of bed and has a little, owie on his
yeah,
forehead, he needs some stitches,
yeah.
we have to go to the hospital.
Okay,
But call us first. Same thing, if your radius is going this way and your ulna is going that way, we're going to put a cast on it at the hospital.
okay.
But I like to tell families it's not that you can't go to the hospital, it's that you don't have to. It's a
Uh-huh.
big difference. It's
Big
a big
difference.
difference. Hmm.
So either way, you have to discharge so that the hospital gets paid, and
Correct.
then bring them back on services. Which is how long does that process take?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah,
What's the
easy.
original process?
Typically, with any agency
Mhm.
across the US, you can expect at least the day after or the next day admission.
Okay,
If you call an agency and they tell you it's a week or 10 days out, call another agency.
okay.
Yeah, especially if there's need right away.
And then who comes out and does the admission?
A registered nurse.
And they do it at the home typically
They
if the
do,
person's at home?
yes.
Okay,
So hospice is a concept, it's not a place.
okay,
There's a lot of hospice houses in the United States,
yeah,
but those are set aside for those patients that either cannot have their symptoms managed at home or they're imminent, meaning 3 to 7 days away from passing away. You can't just decide hospice and then take your luggage to the hospice house. It doesn't work that
yeah.
way. So
No,
the registered nurse comes
yeah,
and they go through the consent packets. There's consents to treat, just like if you're
okay,
going to have surgery or a
yeah,
procedure. The medical power of attorney or the patient has to sign those consents.
mhm,
And then the nurse does what we call an assessment. She'll do blood pressure, weight, height, take the temperature, look at all of the medications that they've been taking.
mhm,
They start to talk to the family about the frequency of their visits. If somebody is stable but just doesn't want to go back to the hospital, and they might only need a visit like once a week,
uh-huh,
then we schedule that once a week with a registered nurse. But along with the registered nurse, there's also a certified nurse assistant or bath aide, and they come
okay,
about 3 times a week. There's also a chaplain and a social worker that
okay.
help with those services.
So at this point, all this information is overwhelming. I'm dealing with the grief of really coming to terms with the fact that
Mhm.
my loved one is not going to survive this disease process that they have, whatever it might be, or it might just be age, natural aging,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so I'm sitting there thinking, now what did the hospice person say, and
Hmm.
who's paying for it? So Medicare is going to pay for it,
100%.
100%.
Hmm.
And what comes with that? What kind of, okay, dad needs insure or dad needs diapers.
Hmm.
Is who pays for that?
So Medicare does cover some of what you just explained. Definitely the adult briefs,
Okay.
any equipment, a bed, an over-the-bed table,
What kind of bed?
oxygen,
I was
a
stuck.
hospital
Hospital bed.
bed, an
Okay.
electric hospital bed, no more crank at the
Yeah,
end
no
of the
more
bed.
crank.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, a hospital bed. And sometimes families don't understand how much a hospital bed can benefit even the family member, not only the patient.
Yeah.
First of all, if they're having some sort of like chronic heart disease or any sort of lung disease, we want to elevate the head at night so that they can breathe better
They
or
can
during the
breathe.
day.
Yeah.
Also, if they're bed bound, our nurses and certified nurse assistant and the members of the family, they're going to want to raise that bed high so that they are helping the family
Not
hear
bending
and not
over.
bending over
Yeah.
and hurting themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can do rails and a fall mat and things like that. So
Mhm.
basically, Medicare will pay for anything that our hospice companies deem appropriate.
Okay. How long does it take to get that equipment into the house once somebody is sign on with hospice.
Same day or next day.
Same day or next day.
Which is
within
a real
24 hours.
surprise to a lot of families because they might have had grandpa in home health and they might have wanted a hospital bed for 3 weeks, but it has to go through an authorization process. And so when someone reverts over to hospice, it's right away. Durable medical equipment is readily available.
So let's list out some of the durable medical equipment. Walker,
Yes.
wheelchair,
Yes.
hospital bed,
Yes.
bedside commode.
Yes.
Okay. Shower bench,
Absolutely.
adult briefs.
Yes. Over the bed table.
What?
Over the bed table.
Kind of like what you see in the hospital?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
You call it over a
Oxygen.
bed table? Okay, I'll use that from now on.
OBT for short.
OBT, over the bed table. OBT. Okay.
Oxygen concentrator.
Oxygen concentrator.
Some families our patients are already on oxygen if they've got COPD, but they're having to pay for that. There's a monthly price. So they send that back and we bring ours in and then Medicare pays 100%.
What about prescriptions?
Most prescriptions are covered. All prescriptions that are related to the terminal diagnosis.
Okay. So let's say that somebody's just getting older. What are the qualifying factors to come on to hospice services?
They have to have a life-limiting illness. And some of those include, it's not an extensive list, but it's neurological disease, a lot of ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, Parkinson's, absolutely.
Okay.
Dementia, Alzheimer's, cancer, congestive heart failure, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease.
Okay.
What are some other ones that I'm missing?
Stroke?
Absolutely, stroke.
Okay. How about weight loss?
Oh, is weight loss a qualifying factor? Absolutely.
Why is that?
Well, because when a body is beginning the dying process, we're going to see family members, loved ones that don't want to eat or drink very much. So therefore, they are going to lose weight. The reason that they don't want to eat or drink very much is because this system, the digestive system, is the first system in the body that gets to lend its energy to the heart, the lungs, and the brain.
Okay.
It's almost as if, and I did this all wrong, I was coercing my mom to eat, and the nurse said, stop. You're going to make her choke. I'm sorry to say that she could get constipated or have diarrhea. She doesn't, this is not working like it once did. So it's not safe for you to continue to coerce her. We call it pleasure feeding. If grandpa wants ice cream, golly, give it to him 3 days a week. Give it to him breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Okay. Well, and that brings up that the families are well-intentioned, they're not well-educated.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's why it's important to have hospice in there, the nurse walking this with you, this journey. Because, and I say it all the time, you encourage them to eat and drink, and aspiration pneumonia is a real thing. And so you have to be careful of that. And we're just thinking, well, you're losing weight, so we're going to just pile on the Ensure. Okay. That's
the body can't break it down.
Your body can't break it down, and like you say, you can be constipated or have diarrhea. Other things can happen. Also, it's too nutrient rich. Those kind of things. Right. So, that's why it's important to reach out first of all, and when people are declining in their health, not be afraid of that process and get professionals in. So hospice is tricky because a lot of people, what I hear when I start talking about hospice with our clients is I'm not ready to die, or I don't want to be gorked out. You're just going to give me a bunch of medication that's going to make me unable to communicate with my loved ones, and I'm not going to understand what's going on, and that's not how I want to live the rest of my days. Can you speak to that?
I can. There are so many people, if I could quantify this, there are so many people that say, gosh, I wish we would have done this sooner because it's so helpful. But we are going to follow the cues of that patient. We don't want them gorked out. We want them to have the best quality of life. Now, sometimes I'll ask a family member, would you rather grandpa be writhing in pain or a little sleepy? So sometimes you have to make that decision, but the hearing is the last sense to go. So they can always hear you. But when a patient says, I don't want to be, loaded down with a bunch of drugs, we absolutely respect that. We want them to have what they want to have. And when they are in need, if they're having, terminal restlessness, or they're agitated, or they can't sleep, the medication is they're going to ask
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's just important, and it's hard to understand if you're not involved in that. But had a person I was working with, and lung cancer also. So air starvation. Did your
Oh,
mom experience air
yes,
starvation? Do you
yes,
want to talk about that,
I
or do you want me to
do.
do it? I'll let
Well,
you do
I
it.
can. We call it's air hunger.
Air hunger. Yep.
And don't be surprised if somebody with a lung disease has that fish out of water breathing at the very end. And we did experience that. It wasn't very long, maybe
Yeah.
a couple of minutes. But it was interesting because that morning we knew her breathing had changed. The nurse was there telling us, told my daughter, get in bed with your grandma.
Yeah.
Because my mom was the first to hold my daughter when she was
Oh,
born, and then Erin
was
held
the
my mom when
mom?
she died. So it's a beautiful
Yeah.
full
Full
circle
circle.
moment.
Yeah.
And Erin is a hospice liaison as
Oh,
well.
she is.
Yes, in Texas, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but air hunger is a real thing, and so a little dose of some Ativan, a little bit of morphine under the tongue, or else just inside the cheek,
Mm-hmm.
so that it's absorbed quickly,
Yeah.
will stop that. It will settle that person down. But some of those, the chain Stokes breathing and the fish out of water,
Mm-hmm.
they're all very difficult. But it's a natural part of the process, and so I don't know. It's
Well,
at that point for me, really, Bryn. I was ready for my mom to not be in so much pain
yeah.
anymore.
You just kind of get to a point where you want the best for them. So I
Yes.
think that's great. I think the air hunger, fish out of the water, I call it air starvation.
Yeah.
It's difficult to hear for the family member who's caring for the loved one,
Hmm.
and because that person's just in agony, they cannot breathe. I
Yeah.
mean, pretend somebody's sitting on your chest, and it's right after you exhaled, okay,
Hmm.
and you can't get your breath back. And we've all, been punched in the gut, right? And we've
Hmm.
lost our air.
Yes.
It's like that, but on steroids, so to speak,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, so I think that's great. The other thing I'd like to address is when people go on hospice and you say, okay, you have a nurse, you have a social worker, you have a chaplain, so you have a spiritual person. Do you have to have all those people, or can
You do
you
not.
whoever fits your family?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And
Hmm.
and then the other thing that I hear is, oh, so we have a caregiver that comes in, twice a week to help the family out, so we don't need them anymore because
Oh,
hospice
yes,
is
you
in
do.
here. Okay, can you go through that?
Yes.
So you're there
So
24/7,
yeah,
or what?
right. No, no, Medicare doesn't pay for that anymore. Somebody took
Okay,
advantage of it some years ago.
yeah,
But we envelop the family, whatever they have going on.
okay,
And if they don't already have paid caregivers, we truly encourage them to look for those paid caregivers. But honestly, families typically have friends, neighbors, people that they know through church. Somebody wants to help.
yeah,
So, and I always tell families, get to know the nurse, get to know the staff,
yeah,
and then once we get into a really good cadence, then you'll figure out what your needs are.
yeah,
We're not going to know right now what your needs are, but give it a few days and let things kind of settle in,
mhm.
and then reach out and ask if you can, if there's an agency that will help you as far as the caregiving.
Caregiving,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very emotionally draining and
Yes.
physically draining to be a caregiver,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
we all need that. We all need to be able to step away. I mean, just pretend if you haven't experienced, a person that you love passing away, just pretend that you're in the hospital 24/7 for 7 or 8 days. You're exhausted and you want to seek out the cafeteria. You just want to get away out of that
Yeah.
environment. So having hospice and maybe a caregiver that comes in, 4 hours a day, once or twice a week, is well worth the money,
Absolutely.
because hospice
Absolutely.
is, you're there to handle the skilled need,
Correct.
which means the RN and the medical director overseeing this. And then you mentioned the bath aid. What does a bath aid do?
Gosh, we call it spa day when they come over.
Spa day?
Spa
Oh, they
day,
give spas?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They will find out from the families what the patient's general routine is.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a shower, then we're going to help them with a shower. If
Okay.
they prefer to do a bed bath, then we can do that too. They file the nails, change the clothes, change the linens,
Okay.
make all the ladies smell, look really pretty, shave the
Okay.
guys. I always like to say shave the guys, and if the ladies need a shave too, we'll do that.
Okay.
And they're there for, a little over an hour, and they
Yeah.
can come up to 3 times a week.
Okay.
Each agency is a little bit different,
A
so
little bit
check with your
different.
local agency.
So they're not there every day. They're there the bath aides are 2 to 3 times a week.
Correct.
Okay, and the nurse comes how often?
She comes at least twice a week, but more when that patient's symptoms start to change.
So it can go from twice a week to 3 times a week to every day.
To 7 days, yes.
Okay.
I do want to also talk about respite. Would this be a good time?
Uh, not quite yet,
Okay,
but
okay.
almost,
Okay.
because that's really super important.
Yeah.
Respite is as part of that.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit on the hospice. You've lived in the Midwest and in the South,
Correct.
and now we're in the Pacific Northwest.
Correct.
What differences are there? Are all hospices throughout the country the same, or what differences are there?
They're not. And in my personal experience, I think in the South, where I was for 10 years serving families through hospice, there was a lot more hospitals that provided what we call general inpatient
Okay.
hospice. And what that meant is, say a family member is in the ICU
Okay.
and they've been on life support for 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
And there's absolutely no chance that they're going to be able to be extubated or have that life support taken off and then for them to get home to then have hospice for their end of life. The hospital would discharge the patient, but they stay in the hospital. Then hospice can come in and provide their services inside the hospital. It's called general inpatient hospice.
Wow, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, GIP we call it.
GIP.
But I saw that a lot more in the South than I have here in the Pacific Northwest.
So what do you see here in the Pacific Northwest? Where do most people receive their hospice benefits?
At home.
Okay.
At home. We've provided on a boat, apartments, in their personal homes. There's a lot of adult family homes in this region of the U.S., which is lovely. We don't have a lot of those all across the U.S.,
Okay.
but this region, for some reason, there's a lot of adult family homes, and they're a great, great resource.
So the goal of hospice is to meet people where they are
Yes,
and provide the services where they want them to be.
that's correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about respite now.
Okay.
Okay. Well, what did you want to say about respite? What is it, first of all?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Bren, when you're talking about the caregivers and sometimes how they can get burnt out,
Yeah.
respite is a benefit that that Medicare pays for.
Okay.
And it is up to 5 days that patient will be transported over to a skilled nursing facility.
Okay.
And then that family, if they have to travel for a wedding, I like to say something a little bit funny.
Yeah.
I like to tell the family members, if you're going out of town for a wedding, a graduation, if you just want to stay home and day drink all week, we don't care. It's none of our business. But sometimes they need that break so they can recharge their own batteries.
Yeah. Because we don't make good decisions when we're exhausted and emotional, right?
Absolutely, you're right.
So every hospice agency can transfer the patient to a skilled nursing facility.
Correct. It has to be skilled nursing facility because they have registered nurse around the clock.
So do you have to have a contract with that skilled nursing facility?
Yes, your agency should. So
Okay.
let your agency know. Give them a little bit of a heads up. Hey, we have a wedding in June,
Yeah.
or I need to stay home and day drink next week.
Okay.
Give them a few days so that the social worker for the agency can then contact the social worker at the skilled nursing facility.
What does a social worker do?
The social worker does all of the really, really behind the scenes, really cool stuff. They make sure that, like, let's say that somebody is in a service and they need to come home to see grandpa. We can talk to the American Red Cross and get that started.
Okay.
They talk about funeral arrangements. They talk about different, if you're a veteran, what kind of benefits do you have? If you have Medicaid, or if you don't have Medicaid but you are eligible for it, then they can help with that.
Okay.
They can also help with placement. So let's say grandma lives at home and she can't live there anymore by herself.
Yeah.
So our social worker talks to the families and encourages them to go search around a couple of different assisted livings in the area. Here's 3 or 4. Pop in, don't call them. Just pop in and see them. You know
may
why.
not get a call back right
That's
away.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and anytime that you're going to schedule a visit, right?
Yeah.
Everything's going to be nice and clean and tidy. But
Yeah.
if you just pop in, kind of like what we did with our kids when they were going to daycare when they were babies, you just pop in.
You and I think a lot alike
We
on that.
do. That's why
Yeah.
we're in this together.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to feel really comfortable with the staff and with the environment.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what some of the things that our social workers do.
Okay. So I hear about volunteers with hospice. What does that look like?
So volunteers with hospice, each agency has to have a certain amount of hours that are dedicated for volunteers.
Okay.
In our situation personally, I think I had a doctor's appointment or something. My mom couldn't be left by herself. So I called the agency a few days before this appointment, and they sent a sweet older woman over, and she sat next to my mom's bed, and they visited for a few hours, and then I was able to go and come back.
Okay. And then I hear that volunteers will come out and play music if you like music or those
Yes.
kind of things. So you have different uh, volunteers with different levels of experience or
Mhm.
activity
Yeah,
that
different
they can
skills.
read for you or
Yep.
that kind of thing, right?
Yep.
Is that
We try to match the volunteer to be the very best, like suitable. Like
okay?
right now we have a lot of veterans on our service, a lot of Vietnam veterans.
Veterans, yeah,
And so we'll look through our volunteer
cool, and see
pool and see who's a veteran.
who's going to
Yeah.
relate, right?
Yes,
So they can
absolutely.
talk. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, okay. So um, should I be should I be afraid if I go on hospice?
You should not be afraid
Why?
because it's a beautiful concept.
Hmm.
And if you try it, and if 3 weeks or 3 days later you don't love it, you call your agency and say, come over and pick up this stuff. I don't want you anymore. It's as
Okay.
easy as that.
And how do I get back on my Medicare benefit?
Your Medicare benefit never goes away.
Okay.
Hmm.
So it's an easy transition.
Yep, absolutely. When that agency discharges you, you either go back with your Medicare benefit or your Medicare supplement.
Plan.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Um, how long can I be on hospice?
Until,
Until I die?
yes.
What if, can you ever graduate from hospice?
Yes, we love our hospice graduates. We
Okay.
typically see hospice graduates with people that have like dementia or Alzheimer's, and perhaps we come in, we manage their medications, and then they start to get better. They start to gain weight. They start being more interactive with their family. And we come to their house one day. If they're standing there with a plate full of brownies, then by gosh, we need to talk about discharge
Okay.
because you no longer fit the hospice description.
Yeah. So you're under the federal guidelines
Correct.
of who would qualify under what circumstances, right?
That's correct. Yes.
So I had this personal experience with a client of ours.
Yeah.
He's 93 years old, now 94 in August. Um, and he was losing a lot of weight, so he
Mm.
qualified for the benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And he was no longer living alone at home. He was in an adult family home, as you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
And he went on hospice, and he had like a visiting doctor that was coming in managing all of his medications once a month. He just kept losing weight, and we saw him twice a week.
Okay.
The hospice nurse came in, checked with us, and said, "Hey, we want to kind of discontinue some of his medications."
Mm.
And he's type 2 diabetic, and just he's pretty healthy for a gentleman his age, so not a lot of real issues, but he did have about 7 medications. We got him down to 3, and he started gaining weight. That was 2 years
Interesting.
ago.
Wow.
He obviously graduated off hospice because he
Mm-hmm.
started gaining weight.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
so it's a
But the
beautiful
minute he has a
story.
decline, he can go right back onto
Yeah.
hospice. Medicare has nothing to say about that.
Yeah, so just
Mm-hmm.
if he ever requalifies, then we'll get
Yeah.
hospice back in there. Okay.
That's a great story. I love it. Thanks for
Yeah,
sharing.
it is a great
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
So what's the average that someone's on hospice? Like, okay, we're ready to call hospice in for mom or dad. What's the average length of time?
The perfect length of stay is, 3 to 6 months.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes people, they're not ready for hospice and they kind of wait until it's too late. I've had people on hospice for a few minutes,
Yeah.
and that's not ideal. It's just not ideal.
Yeah. Well, I'll share another story. I
Do.
love to share stories.
Please do. Go
Kathleen,
ahead.
you'll find this out about me. So a gentleman in the hospital, and the family was a little bit in disagreement. There was the children. There's 5 children, and his wife was still living, and he was not doing well. It was apparent that he was passing away. The family could not come to an agreement, so he's in the hospital, and the medical staff finally said, he's hospice appropriate. And he was transferred in the afternoon from the hospital to the hospice house, and he died in 12 hours.
Golly.
So I just share that story because sometimes we wait too long. I mean, do you want to be in a hospital setting where there's, and as families, these are conversations to have. As moms and dads, these are the conversations that you have about how you want your end of life
Right.
to really look. And I think that's why hospice should not be something that's feared, because what do you say, 3 to 6 months is desirable?
That's a beautiful length of stay, but it's also disease specific.
Yeah.
If we have a patient that's got dementia or Alzheimer's, but they're otherwise a very perfectly healthy person, got a great heart, great lungs, Years.
Years.
Could be
Okay.
years. Hmm.
All right. You just keep recertifying.
Absolutely.
And what is the certification period?
The first certification is 90 days, and then
Okay.
after that, it's every 60.
Okay.
Hmm.
And what is certification and recertification?
So certification means that there's a terminal illness, and that's determined by our physician, the medical director. And then after that first 90 days, every 60 days, that nurse has to show kind of proof that this patient is still hospice appropriate. Now, let's say that a patient's been on hospice for some years and they switch to another agency. We have to do what's called a face-to-face. So a nurse practitioner or a physician has to go see that patient in person to make sure that they do qualify for hospice.
Okay. So I think that's really important information. And if they don't, then they come off and then they're
right.
Medicare. So, okay, let's take this all the way through then.
Okay.
All right. So we're on hospice. We're getting close. The nurse is starting to show up on a daily basis. The social worker's showing up on a daily basis. And I think one thing that I've seen is people who have been in hospice for a while, the nursing staff, what benefit do they bring to the family as far as kind of as we get closer to the end of life? You know, do you understand what I'm asking?
I
Yeah.
do.
So how does the nurse support that?
I believe that to be a hospice nurse, you have to be an angel, honestly.
Yeah.
I say that because I'm not one, but I'm an angel, but not a hospice nurse.
Okay. Okay.
But they bring their experience. They also bring a calm. They will walk in, and if there's some chaos going on, they might pull some of the family members aside and say, "Hey, I know this is rough. Why don't you run down the street and go get some milkshakes?"
Okay.
They might turn on the lights, light some candles, play some music. You make sure that that patient, first of all, is very, very comfortable. If there's any facial grimacing, they're going to realize that there's, you know, chaos. It's hard for people to die when there's chaos. Just like when someone is giving birth, it's harder for that to happen when there's chaos all around.
Do you believe people who are dying understand what's going on around them?
I believe that they can still hear, and it's a very spiritual experience. So I think it depends on the person's spirituality. Sometimes we see family members, loved ones, they'll be talking to their parents or their grandparents. They've been passed away for decades. They might feel, you know, they might all of a sudden have this really beautiful aura around them.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the situation. But back to your question, I believe that our nurses not only bring the compassion that's needed, the understanding that's needed, but then they also bring their experience. Because think about it, like I've only experienced one parent dying on hospice, but they've experienced hundreds. Of patients.
So are they pretty good at pinpointing death?
They are.
Okay.
They are.
I think that's invaluable for families because like we were talking about earlier about the feeding, you know, like how they're losing weight, so we need to feed them more. As people start to transition, you know, and they're getting closer to passing away, the family, you know, they're looking for signs and symptoms. I think my experience with hospice over the years is the nurses are very good about giving, and no one likes to do this in healthcare, but they're very good about giving time frames.
It's true.
They're very good because there's certain, it looks like repeatable signs of death, right?
Yes.
And certain things happen as our body shuts down, and the nurses are great about saying, well, there's a term I think it's called, is it imminent?
Imminent.
Okay, what does that mean?
Imminent means that the dying process is in full swing.
Okay.
And that it could be a couple of days, a couple of hours to a couple of days.
Okay.
There's always a handbook that each agency should give to the family. And in our situation, the hospice agency gave me a handbook.
Okay.
I didn't read it until after my mom died.
Then
and
it made
after
sense
she
to you?
died, after she died, I was like, this was a symptom, she did this, and she did this. I thought she wrote the book, honestly. Like she was textbook dying patient.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah. So being that we've gotten there, so the nurses are really great. And I always tell families when I'm encouraging them to sign up for hospice, you know, if nothing else, instead of you guessing and putting yourself through that torment, the hospice nurse will walk you through it, tell you what the signs are, go through the booklet with you, which is super important. But the other thing, which is also important, is when the person passes away, what happens? And let's say it's at 2 in the morning. What happens?
So the family calls the hospice agency.
Okay.
and the nurse goes out. There's not a hurry. There is a hurry on our part, but not on
Yeah.
the family's part.
Yeah.
Nothing has to really happen right away. The nurse goes out, pronounces that, yes, the patient does not have any respiratory signs, doesn't have a heartbeat. Then they call the funeral home, and the funeral home comes to pick up the body.
Okay.
But the nurse will say to the family, do you want me to call the funeral home now? Or is there somebody else coming over? Like, do you want to wait?
Uh-huh.
There is absolutely no hurry with any of this.
Okay.
So then the funeral home comes over, and they clean the nurses will clean the body and make sure that they look nice to leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and you use the term pronounce. What does that mean?
That means that this person does not have that this person is dead.
Pronounce them dead.
Pronounce them
and
dead.
Puts the time. So that shows up on the death certificate,
Correct.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
Because that's the other piece of that. All this has to work together so that people have a proper death certificate.
Yes.
So
yes, for insurance purposes.
Insurance purposes and all those kind of things, and the funeral homes and whoever's taking care of the body, right?
Absolutely.
But I think a lot of people experiences are different when someone passes away, and I think you addressed it a little bit. They clean up that person,
Yes.
and then they ask, when do you want us? Because a lot of people like to just spend that quiet time,
Yes,
either
exactly.
individually or a family or both. So
Yeah.
everybody gets a turn, spending time and saying goodbye, which they've probably done, but now it becomes real.
It's true. It's true.
Right?
Kind of puts a period at the end of that sentence.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful, really. So overall, what I've seen, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that people wait too long to go on hospice because they think as soon as I go on hospice, I'm going to die tomorrow.
Could not agree with you more.
Yeah.
They wait too long.
They wait too long. And from a financial standpoint, it's beneficial to go on hospice if the person qualifies.
Absolutely.
Because you get all these wonderful things. And hospital beds can be put up anywhere, right?
Absolutely anywhere. Yes, it's a twin size bed, so you need twin size sheets or not.
Yeah.
And some families, like what we did, is we put my mom in the living room so that she could be around all the activity,
all the commotion,
instead of putting her back in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And I also think that some families, they want to obtain the information about hospice, and then they say, well, we'll get back with you, which is great because sometimes they need those layers.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, they're going to make up their mind during the next crisis.
Yeah.
And if we don't already have that patient admitted, we can't really do much at 3 a.m. on a Thursday.
Yeah.
So I like to tell families, go ahead and get grandma signed up now, and then the next crisis that happens, we'll be there to provide that safety for you.
That safety. I
support.
think that's too. Just that's why we're doing these podcasts.
Yeah.
Let people get comfortable with it, and it's not something to fear. It's really something to embrace. And so the person dies, and we try to get people on hospice so they can have a better quality of life.
Correct.
Because you're getting the medical support. You're not guessing anymore about, we saw that change, because every little change, and this, people change all the time. They have their highs and their lows through the dying process, and somebody maybe has not been alert and oriented, all of a sudden is alert, like they're clear as a bell, and we're thinking, they're nowhere close to passing, and then they, that's just a momentary thing. And
It's true.
the hospice people can walk us through that process. So now we've gone through the process, the qualifications. That person's had a good hospice experience. They've passed away, and the family's had a good experience because hospice has been involved. And then the funeral directors pick them up. That happens. The burial happens. The memorial happens. And hospice is totally done, right?
No.
Oh, no? Not end of story?
No, not end of
Oh,
story.
gosh.
No,
Well,
that's
what
where
happens
our
then?
bereavement program comes
Okay.
into play. In our bereavement program, most agencies nationwide do have a bereavement program, and they typically follow the families for about 13 months. So you'll see a letter in the mail at 1 month, or I think it's like 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, 6 months. But then there's also really wonderful resources out there, and one that I really love is called Grief Share.
Yeah.
I love Grief
Love
Share.
Grief Share,
Oh
yeah.
gosh, griefshare.org is the best resource for anybody that's ever experienced a loss. It doesn't matter if it was last week, last year, 10 years ago. It doesn't matter. There's chapters all over the United States, all over the world, and these folks really know about grief. So So hospice doesn't end after that patient passes away.
Now, who would qualify for those benefits? Any family member?
Any family member,
Okay, son, daughter,
cousin,
cousin,
any
anybody
relative,
that had
in-laws, outlaws, all of them.
all, all under that umbrella.
That's right,
And
absolutely.
so, who would normally be reaching out to the family? Is it the chaplain from
It's the
hospice or the
chaplain.
social worker?
The chaplain and also the volunteers. Sometimes
Okay,
they will write the letters themselves.
okay,
It's part of like some of their clerical.
yeah.
Yeah,
So some of these services are free. Obviously, they come with the hospice benefit.
correct.
Um, because in what I see with the grief process too is that people kind of buck up and they get through it. They have to get through the memorial service or the funeral, and people might come to town for that remembrance and all
Yes.
that. So for 2 weeks, everything's we're holding it together, right?
hmm
And then
And then,
everyone leaves, and it
yeah,
gets super quiet, and the
yeah.
noise the quiet has never been so loud,
Yes, it's
right?
so true, Bren.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah, and the reality of that person's new life, particularly for spouses.
Yes.
Yeah,
The
kind of
new normal.
the new
The new
normal,
normal, and it's not good.
the adjustment period.
Yeah, it's hard. It's
So
really
what would
hard.
you recommend for someone who loses a close spouse, or somebody I have a lot of clients that lived with their parents until they're,
hmm
and they suffer because,
Yeah,
the house isn't the same.
right,
That noise,
right.
that morning coffee, the things you got irritated with are no longer
Exactly.
there,
Those
and you
irritants
thought,
are
give
gone.
me those irritants back, right? Yeah,
Exactly. I tell families all the time about grief share. I just think
yeah,
it's invaluable. But if it's not grief share, find a source of comfort because grief will wait for you. And if you stuff it down and pretend that it's not there,
yeah.
it'll pop up at the most unusual spaces. I remember we were in the middle of Walmart and I just slumped on the floor and started to cry. My poor husband did not know what to do. He's looking around like, I don't know what to do with this girl. He's pat me on the
She
head.
doesn't belong to me.
I know
Yeah.
exactly.
Can somebody get this woman help?
It just came over me. I was on the Rubbermaid aisle of all places, and it just reminded me of her. And I just fell down on the ground and just started sobbing, and it was bad. But grief will wait for you, and so to be prepared and to be supported is invaluable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Well, this has been great. Is there anything that we missed that we should?
Gosh.
I mean, we've got some great notes here, but I think the conversation is just. Um, oh, how about this? How to find hospice
Oh,
services?
yes,
How
thank
about
you.
that one? Yeah.
Go to the Google.
Okay.
So just type in hospice and it'll come up hospice near me. So wherever
Okay.
you're at in the United States.
hmm
And I always tell families to maybe interview 2 hospice agencies. I wouldn't interview more than that because
Yeah.
then it just gets confusing. But what you really want to find out is how many patients they're currently serving,
hmm
and what their after hours program is like. Because you know 9 times out of 10 something's going to happen in the middle of the night and you're going to need somebody. And if they don't have somebody on call, then that could be a problem.
I'm just going to throw this out there.
Yeah,
Would the agencies be forthcoming about their staffing issues?
they should.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
should.
So
We are.
let's say this. I like this hospice agency. I met with Kathleen. She was wonderful. We're going to go because I had a great experience with Kathleen. But I'm not having a great experience when I call in and people
hmm
aren't responsive and they don't seem like they're being proactive.
hmm
Um, my mother's got. I'm having to call and say my mom's pain's not being managed. Where are you? Those kind of things. Am I stuck with that hospice agency?
Absolutely not. It's always a sad situation, but I always ask families, give that agency a chance. Call and talk to the executive director, voice your
Okay.
concerns, but then after that, switch agencies. You can switch agencies midway through your hospice
Okay.
benefit period.
So if we're having a bad experience, and this is true with any healthcare
Absolutely.
provider,
They're
it's
not
true with
perfect.
hospice as well.
And sometimes it's a personality.
hmm
Sometimes if that nurse that's coming doesn't quite click with you, there's other nurses in the agency.
Yeah.
But you can switch agencies as well.
So at the end of the consumer really is the driver of their own happiness,
Absolutely.
right?
It's
We're
their
not
benefit.
happy. Yeah, and maybe we'll give you a chance. Maybe we won't. It is their benefit.
Yes,
They've earned it. So
absolutely. They've been paying into it for a long time.
long time.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm glad we covered that. I'm glad we looked at our notes. Okay. And then you have down here benefits of early decision making. I
hmm
think you covered that a bit, but I want you to cover it one more time because
Okay.
I honestly believe people who are maybe diagnosed with a terminal illness
Mhm.
should really call hospice and not wait.
I agree. I couldn't agree more, Bryn, because there's the benefit to that is that they will live a much longer life and they will have a quality of life. And what I mean by that is there's no more going back to the doctor, no more poking and prodding, no more tests, and they can travel, they can go and see their loved ones, they can just have a better quality of life because they're not in the back of their mind, they're not concerned with, okay, the next time this happens, I'm gonna have to go back to the hospital and they hate it. Hospitals are great,
Yeah.
but when you're terminally ill, there's no place like home. Dorothy said it right.
You said it. They can travel. I had a client that she wanted to go to Hawaii. That was her goal.
Oh,
But
yes.
we didn't make it. She
Oh,
waited too long. But so
yes.
how does that work on the hospice benefit? Like, okay, my daughter lives in North Carolina and
Mm-hmm.
I'm in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
So can I leave? And what's going to happen if I have an event at my daughter's house in North
We'll
Carolina?
call North Carolina and we'll secure an agency for you there.
Okay.
So that while you're there seeing your granddaughters and your daughters and you're there for a month, they can come over and provide those benefits for you, those medications, the bath aid,
The
things like
nurse,
that,
all
the
that
nurse,
stuff.
everything.
Okay.
And then when you come back home, San Diego, then you get back with the same agency.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, that's seamless. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a really good benefit.
All right. So now I can say, what have we missed? Have we missed anything?
Gosh.
What else do you tell your people when you meet with them and say, it's going to be okay. We're here to support
Yeah.
you, support your family, um, just for this journey. And we want it to be the best journey,
Absolutely.
you know.
I really want to encourage families to not be afraid to reach out. I say to my families all the time, if something wakes you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and it's bothering you, give us a call. Those nurses are awake.
Yeah.
So call us and ask us anything. Same with on the weekends. But honestly, don't be afraid to mention anything because we really want to know what's going on. We want to know life events. We want to know about, grandpa's service in Vietnam. We want to know all of those things so that we can focus our attention and make him the star of the show because that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And you can celebrate that.
Absolutely.
Maybe little birthday cards or party,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Or Veterans Day for a veteran,
Yes.
right?
We honor our veterans very well, and
Yeah.
what we do is we do pinning ceremonies. So we
What's a
go to
pinning ceremony?
their home and we
Uh-huh.
bring them a certificate based on the branch of service that they served in, and then there's a like a little spiel, and then we pin them with a nice little American flag pin.
Oh.
Yeah, thank them for their service and
Service.
thank their family for their service too and
I
their
bet that
sacrifice.
is really uplifting for people.
It really is.
You
It
know.
really is. Most of the guys, especially, they just feel like they're right back in boot camp again. They're really thankful.
So I think what I'm hearing too is hospice helps people who may have felt invisible or forgotten to be seen
Yes.
and appreciated.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's one of the things I really love about my job is getting to know what their lifelong dreams were, where they travel to, what their hobbies are, and when can we do that again?
Yeah. So important.
Yes.
Bring that to life. And I think that's what extends the life. You keep mentioning that hospice helps extend the life for someone who's on early enough and
Yes.
and those kind of things. And I think that's part of the reason is you're celebrating that person as the star of the show. I loved it when you said that.
That's it. Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Well, Kathleen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for helping bring this to our podcast, The Voice of Aging, and letting people know what the realities of hospice are, not to be afraid of hospice,
Right.
what some of the benefits are, some of the processes and procedures to get signed up. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
All
So
right.
good to see you.
Well, that's another edition of The Voice of Aging, and today we spoke about hospice, all things hospice, and it's something not to be afraid of. And do some more research on it for your area and who's available if you're going through this. We invite you to find out more information also at agingsolutionsnw.com. We have resources there for you and your family to access to just make sure that you're aging appropriately and that all the things that you're going through, you have the resources that you need. So until then, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, where you can connect with our resources. This is Bryn Malone, The Voice of Aging.